To sound more fluent and advanced, you need a wide range of vocabulary. When you're in a job interview, giving a presentation, or taking your IELTS, you don't want to use the same basic words again and again. Today, you'll learn over 100 advanced words you can add to your vocabulary. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. First, you'll learn 40 IELTS synonyms, but you can use these in any formal situations like presentations and interviews. In this lesson, you'll see a common word you may be familiar with, like show, and then you'll learn a synonym that is more formal and more professional, like demonstrate. You can specifically use these synonyms in more formal and professional situations. Now, often words have different meanings, so this synonym is used when displaying or providing something, often in presentations or studies, which is commonly talked about in the workplace and on your IELTS. So of course you can say the data clearly showed the trend, but to use the synonym, the data clearly demonstrated the trend. It instantly sounds more professional. And learning these synonyms will also help you understand natives. Don't worry about taking these notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description.
Show me how.
It graphically demonstrates what happened.
Now let's review mostly and predominantly. Predominantly. This is used to describe something that happens or exists in most cases and is common in academic and professional contexts. You can say the area is mostly residential, so the largest part, or the area is predominantly residential. And I hope you're thinking, I predominantly watch JForrest English lessons. Of course you watch others, but mine make up the most, the largest part. So if that's true, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Now let's review improve and enhance. This is used to make something better, especially design, quality, or experience. For example, they improved the design of the product. They enhanced the design of the product. It instantly sounds more polished.
My day's improving.
We should enhance this.
Instead of saying think about, you can use consider. And of course, this is used when reflecting on options thoughtfully. So you're giving a lot of thought. You can use this as advice. You should think about all the options before accepting the job, for example. You should consider all the options. So maybe you're learning the synonym and the common word at the exact time in this lesson, and that's amazing. So just like before, let's review say and state. But this is used when expressing something verbally or in writing. For example, he said his opinion clearly. He stated his opinion clearly. You will hear the word state most commonly in written form.
Stating she would be in contact.
She said she's fine.
Now let's review talk about and the synonym discuss. So of course this is used to have a conversation or explanation about something. Let's talk about the next steps. I say that every single day. But I can also say, and frequently do, let's discuss the next steps. So to be honest, the common word is the one that I use more frequently. However, there are many times where I don't want to use a common word. I want to sound more advanced or professional. So having these synonyms in your vocabulary is so important. Let's review live and reside. Do you know this one? Notice that pronunciation. Reside, zide, the voiced sound, reside. This is of course used for where someone lives, but it's often used in a legal or official context. But you can simply say, he lives in a quiet neighborhood, and in an everyday context, he resides in a quiet neighborhood. Let's review change and modify. Now this is used when making a small or precise change. So if I want to make it sound like the changes I made were smaller because I don't want to offend someone that I changed their design or document, I might say modify. So you can say the policy was changed last year. That's ambiguous. We don't know how big or small the changes were. The policy was modified last year. It sounds like small changes were made. Reduce already sounds advanced, but you can also say minimize, minimize. This is used when lowering something as much as possible. So efforts were made to reduce the risk. Of course, you want to reduce the risk. Efforts were made to minimize the risk. To me, this sounds even smaller. Minimize the risk.
Reducing swelling.
I like to minimize risk.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Let's review stop and cease. Cease is used when ending an action, but is often in writing or commands. So the police may tell you to cease something, or a lawyer might tell you to cease something. But you can use it in everyday context and say the noise stopped suddenly, the noise ceased suddenly. Let's review try and attempt. Attempt is used when making an effort, especially serious effort. So you can say he tried to solve the puzzle. He attempted to solve the puzzle. To me, this sounds like he was more serious about it. The effort he put was stronger. He spent more time. He attempted to solve the puzzle.
Maybe they tried and they couldn't.
I didn't say that, they make attempts.
Get better is the everyday word I use if I want to sound a little more formal or professional, or if I'm discussing something with a medical provider, I might use recover instead, which is used when health or a specific condition improves. So he got better quickly from the flu. So got is the past simple of get, of course. He recovered quickly from the flu. So the synonym is what a medical provider or a healthcare provider would use. Now the opposite, get worse, and the opposite of the synonym, deteriorate, deteriorate. So this is used when health or conditions decline. Her health got worse over time. To sound more official, professional, formal, her health deteriorated over time.
It's gotten worse.
Things are deteriorating.
Now, you can use think carefully, or you can use contemplate, contemplate. So this is used when deeply thinking about something. She thought carefully about moving abroad. She contemplated moving abroad. So to me, one, it sounds more formal, and two, it sounds like the thought behind it is more serious as well. Instead of saying make better, you can use refine, which sounds refined. So this is used to improve something in detail or precision. The process was made better for efficiency. The process was refined for efficiency. So the details of the process were improved, changed, modified, and the reason was for efficiency.
Make better answers. Find it into carbon dust.
Get rid of is part of my daily vocabulary, but I also use eliminate as a synonym. And of course, this is used to remove something unwanted and to permanently remove something. So they got rid of wasteful spending. So got is the past simple of get. Now, because this sounds more formal, maybe a government got rid of wasteful spending, it would sound more professional to use the word eliminate and say they eliminated wasteful spending. But I would get rid of old clothes because that is the more casual, everyday, in a general context. Let's review, check, and verify. So this is used when confirming something, often in technical or official contexts. Please check your email address, but please verify your email address. You're checking it to make sure it's correct. So check is more ambiguous, and then verify is specific. You're checking for a specific purpose to make sure there are no spelling mistakes or that it's the most recent email address. Now, instead of use up, you can use deplete, and this is an excellent word to have in your vocabulary, especially in the context of resources and when they're used completely. So this can be with environment, energy, or even money. The project used up their budget. So used completely. There's no budget available. The project depleted their budget. You may know this one from all your police dramas on TV. Instead of tell the truth, you can use confess, confess. And this is used when omitting something often related to guilt or honesty. So he told the truth about the mistake. He confessed to the mistake. So it sounds like he was forced to do it, maybe internally because of guilt, or externally because of threat of punishment. He confessed to the mistake. Of course, you hear that on TV a lot. Now, instead of big, you can use significant, but this is used to describe something important, large in size, or with a strong effect, not the size of something. So this shirt, I could say, is big on me. I wouldn't say this shirt is significant on me. It doesn't work like that. But you can say the study showed a big increase in temperature. The study showed a significant increase in temperature. So the amount of the increase is large. So you can use significant.
We found significant differences.
It's a big difference.
And let's review small and minor. This is used for something not very important or very small in significance. Again, not a t-shirt. So you might say there was a small delay in the delivery, but small in terms of the significance or importance. There was a minor delay in the delivery. You already know this one. Instead of great, you can say excellent. But it's a reminder to use it, because even myself, although I know many synonyms for great, I still use great most of the time. So it's a reminder that we can use other words when we want to sound more formal, more professional, or simply just express a broader range of vocabulary. So of course this describes a higher quality or something stronger. He gave a great presentation at the conference. Make that sound a little stronger. She gave an excellent presentation at the conference. Now this is a synonym, but excellent to me does sound better than great, so just keep that in mind that they're similar. And the opposite, we could say bad and detrimental, but not bad in the sense of he gave a bad presentation. Bad to describe something as harmful, and this is often used with health or policy related. So for health, smoking has bad effects on health. Bad is very common. To sound more advanced, you should absolutely say smoking has detrimental effects on health. Using that in a presentation, job interview, IELTS, or daily life will make you sound very advanced. Now, instead of saying something is easy, you can say it's effortless. So of course, this is used when something requires little effort or it just feels natural. The transition was easy. So maybe the transition to a new job or from one strategy to another, the transition was easy. The transition was effortless. Effortless.
Well, that was easy.
Effective, but effortless.
Instead of hard, describe something as challenging. So of course, this is used when something is difficult, but positive or encouraging. For example, climbing the mountain was a hard task. That sounds more negative. It sounds like a lot of effort and in a negative way. But if I say climbing the mountain was a challenging task, it sounds hard, yes, because challenging is not easy, but we use it in a more positive way. It was challenging and I enjoyed the challenge. Instead of look at, you can use observe. So this is used when watching carefully and is often used in science or analysis. Scientists looked at the behavior of the animals. It sounds a lot more professional and also technical and precise to say scientists observed the behavior of the animals. Now let's review show up and appear. This is used when something becomes visible or present. For example, a rainbow showed up in the sky. To sound more professional, a rainbow appeared in the sky. But I would personally use show up for people appearing because it sounds more natural. Now let's review go and proceed. This is used when continuing or moving forward, often in instructions. So in instructions, someone might say or write, please go to the next page. It sounds more professional to say, please proceed to the next page. Let's review raise and elevate. So this is used when lifting or increasing something, and sometimes it's used metaphorically. So for example, he raised the discussion to a new level. So he elevated the discussion to a new level. In this context, elevated sounds like a very professional and advanced choice. Now let's review fall and decline. So this is used when something decreases, often in reports. So there was a sharp fall in demand, there was a sharp decline in demand. You'll see that in economic and financial news. Instead of famous, you can say prominent. So this is used to describe someone or something well-known or important in a particular area. She is a famous author. She is a prominent author, but maybe it's in a specific area. Instead of increased, you can use boost. Boost. So this is used when something gets bigger and it implies a sharp or helpful increase. So marketing strategies increase the company's sales, so that was helpful. Marketing strategies boosted the company's sales. Instead of need, you can use require when something is necessary. So most jobs need computer skills. Most jobs require computer skills. But remember, in a day-to-day context, I need help. You don't need to say, I require help. So keep in mind when you use these synonyms. Instead of ask, inquire. So this is when requesting information, and often in business or writing. She asked about the job opening. That's perfectly fine. She inquired about the job opening. Sounds more professional and formal. Instead of work, operate in a specific context when something functions and is often technical or professional. So the system works smoothly. In this context, work isn't I work every day. I wouldn't say I operate every day, but the system operates smoothly. So works in the way it's supposed to. Instead of end, you can say conclude. So this is when finishing something, common in reports or speeches. The meeting will end at noon. That sounds wonderful. It sounds what native speakers mostly use. But in a more formal context or certain contexts, you can say the meeting will conclude at noon. But I wouldn't ask my colleague, when does the meeting conclude? This sounds a little too formal in that context, but if I'm presenting, I might say, let's conclude after the next slide.
That's the end.
That concludes this meeting.
Instead of give, you can use provide when offering something. The teacher gave clear instructions. The teacher provided clear instructions. Instead of keep, how about retain? So this is to hold or not lose something. Common in work or legal context. Employees may keep unused vacation days. But because this is more of a policy, a legal policy for the company, it sounds more professional to say employees may retain unused vacation days. Instead of a lot, you can use frequently. So to describe something happening many times or often. She goes to the gym a lot. I'm sure you use the word a lot. She frequently goes to the gym, but notice the placement there right before the main verb. She frequently goes to the gym. Instead of a long time, an extended time. So this is used to describe a duration that lasts for a significant amount of time. They waited for a long time. They waited for an extended time. You have already expanded your vocabulary. Let's continue and review the most overused English words in daily speech by native speakers as well. And you'll learn many options you can use to sound more fluent and advanced. Now let's start with a word that I'm guilty of overusing. And just remember that native speakers are guilty of overusing these words as well. Our first word, our vacation was amazing. I'm sure you know the word amazing, and you might think, well, this is a replacement to a common word. It's a replacement to good, very good, or great. And that's true, but this replacement word, amazing, has become overused. And I say I'm guilty of it because there are 30 or more common alternatives. So why just use the same word over and over again when 30 or more alternatives exist? So let's review the most common. The concert was simply incredible. So here the alternative word is incredible. Incredible. Now you can modify this to make it sound stronger and say simply incredible. My English progress in just 1 month is astonishing. Astonishing. Now, hopefully that's something you are thinking right now, and hopefully my lessons play a role in helping you get astonishing results, amazing results, astonishing results. If you think so, then put that's right, put that's right in the comments. We also use amazing to describe scenery or buildings or situations even. For example, the sunset was breathtaking, to use a replacement to amazing.
We're bringing incredible talent and tools.
The story of the Lake Peigneur drilling accident is an astonishing record.
It was initially constructed in 1436, but the astonishing front facade wasn't completed until the 19th century.
Our next common word, the restaurant was nice. Nice, this is a positive adjective. It's a feeling of general satisfaction. Of course, you can use it to describe people, things, or experiences. For example, you can say, what a pleasant day. What a pleasant day. So this is something you can use every single day. Or you can say, the receptionist at the hotel was lovely, instead of describing him or her as nice, was lovely. Now that is a person. You can also describe an experience or a specific object. Our stay at the hotel was delightful, delightful. We had an enjoyable time at the park.
It's been a pleasant surprise to be involved in this kind of thing.
And this really does have a lovely sauce to it, even though we put cream cheese in it.
Now, sleeping is delightful.
Here's a common word you probably use every day. The exam was easy, easy. You can say, I studied for weeks, so the exam was a piece of cake. I find that most students know this idiom, to be a piece of cake. The exam was a piece of cake. Or hopefully you're thinking right now, Jennifer makes learning English easy peasy. So you just add the word peasy here, easy peasy. It sounds very fun, very casual, very lighthearted. So if you agree that Jennifer makes learning English easy peasy, put that's right in the comments. Or you could say, you make speaking in public look effortless, look easy, look effortless. Now you could say the instructions were easy to follow or easy to understand. So you can replace easy to follow with the instructions were straightforward and or clear. So you can use both or you can just use one.
If it would work, we know it would work, piece of cake, I think most people would get behind it.
It's effortless. We just do it without really thinking about it.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Now what's the opposite of easy? The exam was hard. You can say, I didn't study, so the exam was challenging. The exam was difficult. Or you could say, we thought the hike was going to be a piece of cake or easy peasy, but it was strenuous, strenuous. It was arduous, arduous. Both strenuous and arduous mean requiring much effort or energy, so they're generally used with physical tasks. You can also say, I had a tough day, instead of saying I had a hard day.
The cosmetics were challenging. It's going to be difficult to get them to pay.
Because of this, couples avoid tough conversations about money before getting married.
How about this easy word? The traffic downtown is always bad. Instead of bad, you can say the traffic this morning was dreadful, dreadful. Or I had a terrible headache last night instead of bad headache. The food on the plane was appalling, appalling. This is more severe than bad. It means very bad. So often these alternatives can replace very or so plus the common adjective.
You know, they're just so earnest and dreadful.
I asked my son, who is by the far terrible, terrible athlete, gets it from his dad.
I wouldn't crave it, but it's not terrible.
How about this common one? She's a happy person. I think this describes me overall. Instead, you can say she's a joyful person. She's a cheerful person. You can say he was elated, elated after hearing the good news. She felt ecstatic, ecstatic when she got the job.
It was so good, and I brought the joyful grains.
I know that others felt devastated or elated.
But I didn't care. I was jumping up for joy. I was ecstatic. I was happy.
Our next common word, that was a smart question. Instead of smart, you can say that was a clever question. That was a brilliant question. Brilliant sounds like very smart. Or you can say he's extremely intelligent, he's extremely bright. You don't have to use the modifier extremely is just an option, just like you could say he's extremely smart or just he's smart. He gave an astute. He gave an astute analysis of the market. That is an excellent word to use in a more professional or academic environment. You can say his ingenious. His ingenious method solved the issue quickly.
There are more clever ways to prove bounds on the COP number.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very astute observation.
Well, local officials came up with a brilliant plan.
Here's a common one that native speakers overuse. The documentary was interesting. Interesting. Instead of interesting, you can say, the history of ancient Egypt is fascinating, fascinating. Or the speaker gave an intriguing presentation. His captivating performance held the audience's attention. Captivating. These are great alternatives because interesting can sometimes mean negative, but the three alternatives I gave you are always used in a positive way.
But I just think it's a fascinating idea.
I think it's so captivating to see this couple in this really intense night of their lives.
I find the definition of compassion is a fascinating one, and it's not one that I hear people talk about.
Our next common word, thanks for the beautiful flowers. Again, there is nothing wrong with saying beautiful, but there are so many beautiful alternatives, like the word gorgeous. Her garden is gorgeous. The colors of the leaves in fall are stunning, stunning. Or the flower vase is exquisite, exquisite. Now notice I said vase. Both pronunciations, vase, which rhymes with face, and vase, which has an ah but a z sound, both are used in American English, which is interesting because vase is the American pronunciation and vase is the British pronunciation, and generally in American English we don't adopt British pronunciation, but for this specific word, vase or vase, both are commonly used in North America.
There are kind, loving men looking for a gorgeous woman like you.
Deep sea corals actually come in a stunning array of brilliant color.
Cahal was in awe of its exquisite detail, both as a scientist and an artist.
Our next common word, I have an important meeting this afternoon. How many times do you describe something as important? I know I sure use it a lot. Instead, you can say the meeting is crucial, crucial. Or this is a significant opportunity for our company. You can say it's vital, vital, or it's essential, essential to get enough rest before the exam.
But their influence is crucial in the development of their children.
Now, the site is a work in progress, but it's significant progress because it's designed with the users who matter most.
Having these vital money talks before getting married will prepare you to have them during marriage from a place of honesty and understanding.
Our next common word, the movie was funny. Instead of funny, you can say, the comedian is hilarious, hilarious. This sounds like very funny. Or her reaction was humorous. Her reaction was comical. Instead of saying, you're very funny, you can say you're very witty, witty. Keep in mind though that this means funny in a clever way. So it does have a slightly different meaning from funny, but it's a great alternative to know.
Made-up nonsense gibberish is frequently hilarious.
He's very keen on, his work is very humorous anyway.
He was a very witty, very wise man.
How about this common word? I made a big mistake rejecting the job offer. You can say it was a substantial mistake, but we can fix it. Or this is an enormous, that sounds like very big, enormous project. You can use enormous to describe objects. You can also use massive. Elephants are massive. Elephants are massive. Elephants are enormous.
We've come to a very substantial phase one deal.
All these things are areas where we've made an enormous investment and there have been significant payoffs.
These are massive machines.
And what's the opposite of big? It was a small mistake, a small mistake. Let's review some common alternatives. Don't be mad, it's a tiny mistake. We can fix it. Tiny is very small. So if you want to minimize the importance of a mistake, you can say it was a tiny mistake. Here's a great one. I made some minor changes to the report. Minor changes. Or you could describe an object and say only compact cars can park here. It's an alternative to saying small cars. Only compact cars can park here. With money or resources, you can say we invested a modest amount of money.
Soil is mostly made of little tiny rocks. Its texture depends on the size of those rocks.
In between all these minor changes, wash your hands, wear a mask, get a vaccine, you know the drill.
So although the findings were pretty modest, the WHO thinks this one's worth a shot.
Here's one that might apply to you. Many students are scared of speaking English in public. You can say, she became terrified. Terrified. That sounds like very scared. She became terrified when she found out she had to give a presentation. Or the noise frightened the kids. Frightened instead of scared. Now, to say extremely scared, you can use the word petrified. I'm petrified of spiders.
We are terrified of being wrong.
What are you frightened of ever losing?
My engagement ring.
I was absolutely petrified of this man.
Let's review this common word. It was brave of you to agree to give the presentation in front of 2,000 people. Even though you were petrified, it was brave of you. You can say she made the bold decision to move abroad. It's brave, it's bold. She made the bold decision. Or it was courageous. It takes a lot of courage. It was courageous of you to quit your job.
For the first time in my life, I understood how courageous she is.
So we were so proud of him because he was so courageous, so visionary.
Now, that's a pretty bold statement.
Let's keep going and learn more overused English words, like the basic word fast. Your car is fast compared to mine. Instead of fast, you can say rapid. The service was rapid during lunch hour. The service was fast. Or the response from customer support was speedy, speedy. You can also say he took a brisk walk, brisk. Brisk. He took a brisk walk to clear his mind. Now, brisk is used for actions involving energy and speed, such as walking or weather, but not objects like cars or processes. Here's a sentence hopefully you'll agree with. I'm making rapid progress or speedy progress with my English fluency. Do you agree? Put let's go, put let's go in the comments.
The rapid change in pressure and temperature produces huge amounts of steam.
Visitors can ride one of Europe's fastest elevators and take a speedy climb to some of the best views in Berlin.
Interactions that could be seen as pleasantly brisk and convenient in some cultures could be seen as horribly rude in others.
Our next common word, the internet is too slow to load videos. Instead of slow, you could say the traffic was sluggish, sluggish. How fast does a slug move? Not fast at all, sluggish. Traffic was sluggish during rush hour. Or you can say, I felt sluggish after a heavy lunch. Now, sluggish is used to mean less power or less energy. You could also say they took a leisurely stroll by the lake. Now, stroll is another word for walk. Leisurely, this sounds positive. So traffic is slow. That's negative. But we took a leisurely walk. This sounds positive because it means slow and relaxed on purpose. You can say progress on the project was gradual but steady. Gradual also sounds positive, whereas slow sounds negative. So gradual means slow but steady. Gradual.
Get sluggish. Let your body just eat the fat that you've stored up just the way you should. Hibernate a little bit.
Around 500 million years ago, an ancient fish was out for a leisurely swim.
Our next word, it was quiet. Quiet in the library. You can say the room was silent after the shocking announcement. You could say the spa has a serene atmosphere. Serene sounds positive. It means peaceful and calm. Oh, that spa is so serene. You can say the baby's room was hushed. Shh, hushed, so she could sleep. Now, if something is hushed, just like when you say shh, it means deliberately muted. So any noise from people, music, outside, so you close the window, the room was hushed.
We must be participants of change, not silent observers.
This exhibit features playful river otters in a serene environment that is a combination of land and water habitats.
Even toddlers will love this hands-on museum where they are never hushed.
What's the opposite of silent? Our next word, the traffic is too loud for a meeting. Instead, you can say the thunder was deafening, so loud I cannot hear. Deafening during the storm. Or how about the applause was booming after the performance? Now, deafening and booming both mean extremely loud. Sometimes this can be positive, like an applause. You want applause to be extremely loud. How about this one? Her piercing scream. Her piercing scream startled everyone. Now, piercing is used for very high-pitched or sharp sounds, and they get your attention.
Right now, students around the world are screaming for change in the piercing voice of despair.
Ah, crickets. The deafening silence that occurs when someone doesn't respond to our email, phone call, or text, or in some way fails to acknowledge that we exist.
Our next common word is too hot to sit outside. Instead of hot, you can say the sand was scorching. Do you know this one? Scorching. Or the sun was blazing at midday. You can say she finished the race despite the sweltering heat. Now, all of these mean extremely hot, but sweltering specifically means uncomfortably hot. It is an extreme temperature.
Now, India is a country infamous for its scorching heat and humidity.
Everything's smoking, blazing, quickly moving, steam's going in your face, everything's smelling super good. And that's the beauty of wok cooking.
It's another sweltering night here in the swamps of Texas.
And the opposite of hot? It's too cold in this room. You can say the wind was chilly during the evening walk, the leisurely evening walk or stroll, or the lake felt icy or freezing when I dipped my hand in. The frigid air froze the pipes overnight. Now, these adjectives are listed from least extreme, so least cold, to most extreme, most cold.
A little chilly out here, isn't it? Or at night.
Surrounded by the swirling currents and freezing water of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz was believed to be inescapable.
Holding his breath under dark, frigid water.
Our next common word, she was angry about the mistake. The boss seemed irritated during the meeting. You don't want that. He was furious when his flight was canceled. Maybe you've experienced that. Or she became enraged when her suitcase was lost. Again, these are listed from least extreme, so least angry, to most extreme. Enraged means extremely angry.
You know, sometimes I get irritated, annoyed, and wonder, what the heck? What are you doing? Why are you driving like that?
He was really furious at Hosseter, as he was, by the way, at Minsky.
Torvald finally reads the letter from Krogstad, and he is enraged.
Let's talk about hungry. Of course, you can say, I'm hungry. Let's get lunch. Now, you can say, I'm a little peckish, or just I'm peckish. Let's have a snack. You can say, after hiking all day, I was famished. Famished. Or he felt ravenous. Ravenous after skipping breakfast. Again, least extreme. Peckish only means slightly hungry to most extreme. Ravenous means extremely hungry.
We can whip up a sandwich if we're feeling peckish, but we have to consume proteins and sugars and other essential molecules made by something else.
The ravenous swarm stretches as far as the eye can see.
Let's talk about tired. I was so tired after the long flight. You can use weary. We were weary after the 10-hour flight. He felt drained from back-to-back meetings. Drained. Or you can say she was exhausted. I'm sure you know this one, but how frequently do you use it? She was exhausted after the marathon.
I really believe, but it is a weary game.
And then as Kyle's strength drained away, he sensed the end was coming.
On the one hand, if they do so, they'll be exhausted. They'll suffer from burnout.
Let's talk about stupid. Of course, you can describe someone as stupid, which is quite a rude thing to say, not very polite, but we often use this adjective with ourselves. I made a stupid mistake. Have you ever said that? I made a stupid mistake in front of my boss. Oh no. Well, instead of stupid, you can say dumb. Oh, that was dumb of me. That was stupid of me. You probably know that one. How about foolish? It's foolish, not very smart. So stupid or dumb, not very smart. It's foolish to leave your car unlocked. Would you agree with that? So saying something is foolish sounds slightly less rude than saying that's dumb when you're saying it to another person. Or if you even want to sound more polite, you can say, he made a silly mistake by wearing mismatched socks. So we use silly when something is more lighthearted, not very serious, and is not as harsh of the others. So if you want to say this to someone, if you say, that was dumb of you, that was stupid of you, that sounds quite harsh, quite rude. But if you say, that was foolish of you, or that was silly of you, that sounds less harsh.
How can you be smart and have this dumb idea at the same time? This was nuts.
Without fear, we'll do foolish things.
I also do silly things like I have a reggae air horn.
Let's talk about rich. He's rich enough to afford a yacht. Notice that pronunciation, yacht, yacht. You can use wealthy. Warren Buffett is extremely wealthy, so you can still modify this to make it stronger. Extremely wealthy. You can say, his wife's family is loaded, loaded. This is a casual way of saying extremely wealthy, but native speakers use this a lot. He's loaded, she's loaded, they're loaded. To sound more formal or professional, you can use affluent or prosperous. They live in an affluent or prosperous neighborhood. You can use these to describe people, but they are more commonly used to describe communities, countries, businesses.
Many wealthy countries have adopted a carbon tax that makes consuming carbon fuels more costly, encouraging households to adopt carbon-neutral energies.
Many neighborhoods will be redeveloped as affluent housing, while thousands of residents will be forcibly pushed out of their homes and into affordable housing outside the city.
The city dates back to medieval times and was already prosperous by the 13th century when a dam was built to separate the Rot from the Nieuwe Maas.
And the opposite of rich, hopefully you don't need to use this. He's too poor to afford a yacht. You can say we're raising money for disadvantaged children. Notice that pronunciation, disadvantaged. So children who don't have the advantages that wealthy families have. Disadvantaged children. The community impoverished after the hurricane. The organization helps destitute individuals find housing. So these are people in the most need, destitute.
Disparities. It exposes, that they're not taking care of certain, minority groups or disadvantaged groups. So there's a lot of political impediments, but there's spectacular examples of the opposite.
They want to impoverish all of humanity today to solve a putative problem in the future.
There's some desperate poverty out there, and it's not just an anomaly. It's half of humanity struggling to make it work.
Let's move on to clean. Your kitchen is so clean. You can say the hotel room was spotless, extremely clean. You can say the lab must remain pristine, or your white countertops look immaculate, not an imperfection or a spot or a mark. Immaculate.
There's no spotless leaders. I mean, none of us in here are morally unstained characters in life's grand story.
Even so, given this risk, it is a pristine find.
He's also committed to the idea of an immaculate empire.
And the opposite, my kitchen is so dirty. The hotel room was filthy when we arrived. Extremely dirty, filthy. The windows became grimy after the storm. His unkempt, repeat after me, unkempt, disheveled. His unkempt or disheveled appearance surprised everyone. So if I started this video and my hair was super messy and my shirt had stains on it and maybe my lipstick was smeared, you might say, Jennifer, you look unkempt, or Jennifer, you look disheveled. So this is used with personal appearance, and it means poorly maintained or neglected. I neglected to brush my hair and fix my shirt before recording this video.
Crowded tenements, filthy streets, and unsanitary conditions all around contributed to an annual death rate of 1 out of every 36 residents, according to the Living City Archive.
The kitchen area is dirty and grimy.
Why was he unshaved with unkempt hair and torn jeans and paint all over his clothes? Should someone call the police?
Our next word, boring. I'm sure you've used this one. The lecture was boring. Hopefully you're not thinking that right now with this lesson. Or you can say the movie was dull, dry, or slow. All of these are synonyms to boring. You can say filling out forms is always tedious. We use this with tasks that are boring. Or you can say this job is so mundane, monotonous. So these mean routine, not changing. So the same task over and over again every single day. And because it's routine and not changing, it's therefore boring.
I know all of this may seem tedious or boring.
I was finding ways to motivate myself when things kind of got a little bored or mundane.
An audiobook? It gets astoundingly monotonous.
You have learned many alternative words. Let's do something different. Now you're going to learn 12 words you should remove from your vocabulary immediately. And you should do that because these words are grammatically incorrect, although I hear them all the time, or they're just demotivating. And I hear them all the time. Don't worry, you'll also learn better words to use instead, so you'll still expand your vocabulary. The first word you should remove is try. Why? Because it's disempowering, it lacks commitment, and it sounds weak. For example, I'll try to improve my speaking skills. This doesn't sound like you've made a true commitment. This doesn't sound like you believe it's possible. So instead, use stronger words that show that you're committed, that show you believe in yourself as well. You can use will or commit to. I will improve my speaking skills. When you say will, you're making a commitment. It sounds very strong. People will respect you when you say, I will do this, because it's a strong word. You can also say, I'm committed to. I'm committed to improving my speaking skills. Now, these words don't mean that you're going to improve today or tomorrow, or even that you know how. It's just saying that you are committed, you will, whereas the word try sounds weak. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Number 2, advices. Do you know why you should remove this word from your vocabulary? I hear this word every single day from many, many students, even my most advanced students. But what's the problem with the word advices? It's grammatically incorrect. The word does not exist in English because the word advice is always singular. Now, there are many grammar mistakes that you can make, and most native speakers won't even notice them. But if you say advices to a native speaker, they will instantly think your English isn't very fluent. And if you are in a job interview or going for your IELTS, this could make you fail and not get the result you want. So it's really important that right now you remove this from your vocabulary. And remember, don't say, I'll try, Jennifer, I'll try. No, what are you going to say? I will remove this from my vocabulary today. I'm committed to removing this. So all you have to do is drop that S. Remember, you can't say, thanks for your advices, or can you give me some advices? What do you have to say? Remember, drop that S. Thanks for your advice. Can you give me some advice? And notice you can still use a modifier some with the singular advice. And to sound even more fluent and more professional, you can use piece or pieces of advice. Advice is always singular, and this is to emphasize singular or plural. So you can say, that's a great piece of advice if you want to emphasize one. Or you could say, those are great pieces of advice if you want to emphasize more than one, plural. So are you enjoying the advice in this video so far? If you are, of course, like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe, and put woohoo in the comments so I know you're enjoying this advice. The next word you should remove from your vocabulary is wrong. The word wrong. This is because in English, it can sound very harsh, critical, and it's also disempowering. As a teacher, I avoid saying that answer is wrong because that might make the student feel bad about themselves, bad about their English level, because there are a lot of strong emotions in the word wrong. Think of all the times you've been told this as a child or even as an adult and how it makes you feel. So I say instead, as a teacher, that answer is incorrect. You could also say that answer isn't correct. It sounds more neutral and it sounds more empowering. So for you, if you're in a social situation or a professional situation and someone says something and you know that information isn't correct, don't say you're wrong. For example, the meeting starts at 3 p.m. and you know the meeting doesn't start at 3 p.m. Don't say to that coworker, you're wrong, because that sounds very critical. You can use the word actually. Actually is used to correct information, a false assumption. So you can say, actually, it starts at 4 p.m. That is a softer way to communicate it. Or you could say, I have it in my calendar for 4 p.m. Let's confirm the correct time. Think of how much better this will be for your relationship with that person rather than saying you're wrong. Number 4, can't. Of course, this word is disempowering and it sounds weak, similar to the word try. I'm sure you've said statements about your English using can't many times. I can't understand native speakers. But this sounds like a definitive statement, which isn't empowering you or motivating you or encouraging you, and it makes you sound weak to other people. There's a great strategy where you can still use can't, just add the word yet at the end. So say, I can't understand native speakers yet, which means right now this is true, but in the future this will not be true. So it's such an empowering sentence just by adding that one word yet, and add it right at the end. You can also use commit to, which we learned before, as a replacement to try. Right now, I can't understand native speakers, but I'm committed to improving my listening skills. Think of how much more empowering that sounds. Now let's talk about recommend me. What's the problem here? Why shouldn't you use recommend me? Well, just like with advices, it's grammatically incorrect. I hear recommend me from students so often that it's starting to sound normal to me because I hear it so much. But from students, it is not grammatically correct. Native speakers don't say that. So what do you think of this sentence? Would you recommend me this book? What do you think about that? It's incorrect. The correct sentence structure is recommend something to someone. So how can you fix that sentence? Would you recommend something, this book, to someone, to me? Would you recommend this book to me? So starting right now, you need to remove recommend me from your vocabulary. Let's talk about I don't know. You should remove this because again, it's disempowering and it sounds weak. You want to communicate confidently. Saying I don't know often makes you sound unconfident. You can say, I don't know when the meeting starts. That is fine. You can say, I don't know how to use the word myriad. Can you explain it to me? That's fine. But don't make general statements and say, I don't know how to improve my speaking skills. This is disempowering. It doesn't motivate you to try to improve your speaking skills because you just said you don't know how. Instead, you can say, I'm confident. I'm confident I can improve my speaking skills. Think of how much more professional, strong you sound if you said that in a meeting. I don't know how to use Excel. I'm confident I can learn how to use Excel. So you can use this in any situation. You can also simply say, I know I can. I know I can improve my speaking skills. Or I will improve my speaking skills. Now let's talk about gonna. I strongly feel you should remove this from your vocabulary. And the reason is because I work with students every single day in the Finally Fluent Academy, and I see students try to use the word gonna, but they either use it incorrectly and it doesn't sound professional, or the grammar that they use it is completely wrong. So it sounds unprofessional. Now remember, gonna is slang, and it sounds unprofessional if used in the wrong context, or if it's used incorrectly. Native speakers use this word all the time. Instead of saying going to, native speakers say gonna. This is a reduction that naturally takes place in spoken English. I don't think, should I use the word gonna? It just comes out naturally because our sounds combine naturally in spoken English. So even in a workplace situation, I could say to a coworker, we're gonna grab a bite. Do you want to join? So instead of saying going to, I combine those sounds and say gonna. The problem is I see students try to use this, but instead they say, I'm gonna to send you the report by 5 p.m. Well, first of all, this is grammatically incorrect because going to is gonna, so you don't use to again. And also the context of this sentence sounds more professional if this were written English. So in this case, it would be inappropriate to use in a professional context in written English. Native speakers use gonna in written English, but in a more informal context, quick text messages or quick emails, but it depends on the situation. Because you might not know when you should or shouldn't use gonna, that's why I recommend you remove it from your vocabulary. Going to is always correct. Gonna is often incorrect or unprofessional. Number 8, shall. This is outdated in most contexts. First of all, shall is a modal verb for a future action for the subjects I or we. First of all, you need to know how to use it correctly, and many students don't. But native speakers don't use the word shall anymore, except in very specific situations. A native speaker would not say, I shall go to the party. A native speaker would say, I will go to the party. So for future actions, native speakers use will. But native speakers do use shall in very specific situations. For example, if you're at a restaurant or an event or a party and you want to leave, you can turn to the person and say, shall we go? And the other person can reply back and say, we shall. But you might not know how to use this word correctly. And because native speakers only use it in this very specific situation, and in all other cases, it makes you sound outdated, I recommend removing it from your vocabulary. Number 9, good. This is vague and it's also basic. Native speakers use this word all the time as well. For example, when I often ask my husband, how was your day? He just says, good. It was good. What does that tell me about his day? It tells me nothing. Or you might ask your friend, how was your vacation? Or your coworker, how was the meeting? And if all they say is, it was good, you don't have a lot of information, do you? So you can still say good, but I recommend expanding that with at least one specific point. For example, how was the meeting? It was good. We learned a new method for organizing our files. So technically you can keep good in your vocabulary, but add on to it. Don't just say it was good. Number 10, interesting. This word is vague and is also quite confusing in English because interesting can be positive, interesting in a good way, or it can be negative, interesting in a bad way, depending on context. Sometimes native speakers use the word interesting when we don't want to offend someone. So if my friend asks me, oh, do you like my new shirt? I can say, oh, that's an interesting shirt. So in reality, I don't like the shirt, so I can describe it as interesting, which is actually a negative in this case, but hopefully my friend doesn't realize that. So if your friend asks you, how was the party? Now you know, don't just say it was good, and also don't just say it was interesting. If the party was positive, you can say the party was entertaining, engaging, enjoyable, delightful. These words only have a positive meaning. Or if you want it to mean interesting in a bad way, you can say the party was dull, boring, tedious, lifeless. So those are great positive and negative adjectives to replace the word interesting. Number 11, really. This is overused even by native speakers, and it's also very basic. I'm really tired. But there is one word that means really tired. Do you know what that word is? I'm really tired. I'm exhausted. So it communicates the same thing without using the word really. I'm really busy. What's the one word to replace really busy? I'm swamped. The party was really good. What's one word to replace really good? Well, there are many options. For example, the party was amazing, entertaining, exciting. Start with these that I shared and keep learning one word alternatives to really plus word. Number 12, persons. A native speaker will instantly know that English is not your first language if you use the word persons in an everyday context because it's only used in a government, legal, or official context. In everyday English, there's one person, the word is singular, and then what's the plural? Two people. People is the plural of person. So in any everyday context, including business and academic, you would say all people must register before attending the conference. But in government, legal, or official English, they would say all persons must complete the form, or this policy applies to all persons older than 55. I hear English learners say, I met some interesting persons at the party. This is an everyday context, and using persons sounds unnatural. You should say, I met some interesting people at the party. This is such an important concept, so let's keep going and you'll learn 12 more words you should remove. Number 1, ought. Ought. You should remove this word because it's outdated. Native speakers don't use it in modern English. It sounds too formal and it sounds stiff. Now, my grandmother would say to me, you ought to be nicer to your brother. When I hear the word ought, I think of my grandmother. I don't think of modern English. You ought to be nice to your brother. Of course, this is grammatically correct. But now in modern English, native speakers replace this with should. You should be nicer to your brother. You should bring an umbrella. It looks like rain. You should stay home and prepare for your job interview. So notice should is your modal verb and you use modal plus base verb. And of course, this modal verb is used to express obligation, advice, or expectation. So I could say to you, you should subscribe to JForrest English. Would you say that to your friends? You should subscribe. You should definitely subscribe. If you'd say that, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Number 2, works. Works. Do you know why you should remove this from your vocabulary? It's because it's grammatically incorrect as a noun. And that's the important thing, because of course you can say she works at the bank. This is the verb to work conjugated in the present simple with your subject she. She works at the bank. But I hear my students say, I have a lot of works tonight. This is grammatically incorrect. The same with I have a lot of homeworks tonight. The word homework includes work, and these are nouns. Now, work is a collective noun, which means it's always singular. So to be grammatically correct, you need to say, I have a lot of work tonight. I have so much homework to do. Now, keep in mind, work, when it means tasks, assignments, or obligations, is a collective noun. It's always singular. But we also use works with artistic intellectual creations. Now, in this case, it's a regular noun, so it can be singular or plural. For example, his works of art are displayed in galleries around the world. They may not say of art, it's implied. So if you ever see that and you're confused, that's the reason why. It's acceptable with artistic or intellectual creations. But you could also say his work is displayed in galleries around the world. Number 3, irregardless. Irregardless. Have you heard native speakers say this? Because native speakers commonly make this mistake. But the word irregardless does not exist in the English language. All you need to say is regardless, regardless. Remember, I advise that you should subscribe to JForrest English. I can add regardless of your level. Now notice if I include the noun your level, I need to include of, regardless of your level. You can also use this at the beginning of a sentence. Your friend might say, but I'm only a beginner. And you can say, regardless, you should subscribe to JForrest English. So again, put that's right, if you want to advise your friend to do that. Now, regardless, this means not being affected by something. So your level shouldn't affect you. It's the same as despite. So you can equally say, despite your level, you should subscribe to JForrest English. Number 4, United States. Why would you remove this from your vocabulary? Because my students say, I'd love to visit United States. This is incorrect. Do you know why? It's because you need the article the. I'd love to visit the United States. Or you could say he's the president of the United States. How about this sentence? The United States president is visiting us next week. In this case, United States is used as an adjective. The president is visiting us. The belongs to the noun president. United States functions as an adjective. Remember that proper nouns such as cities or countries don't require articles. The United States is an exception. I hear this mistake so often. Remember, the United States. Number 5, rock. You may know that I love saying you rock, which is another way of saying you're amazing, great, or awesome. Native speakers like myself love saying this. The problem is that in the comment section of my YouTube videos, I see so many comments where students say you are rock. This is incorrect. It is not to be rock. That's not the sentence structure. The sentence structure is to rock. So it's using rock as a verb. So if I say you rock, that is in the present simple. If I say you rocked the presentation, this is in the past simple, which means you did a great job on the presentation. How about this one? You're going to rock the interview. This is the infinitive, to rock. Now, it is possible to use the verb to be. I might say, you're rocking it, you're rocking it. But this verb to be is used in the present continuous tense. It's the same as saying you're doing a great job right now. So remember, to be rock is grammatically incorrect. The sentence structure is to rock. So absolutely, keep this in your vocabulary, but make sure you say you rock, you rock. Number 6, ain't. You may already know that this is slang, not standard English, but you should understand it because natives commonly use it. But I think you shouldn't use it because there's a high risk it will sound inappropriate because yes, natives use it. You'll hear it in music. Taylor Swift has a song called Ain't Nothing But You. And in a separate song called Blank Space, she repeats the line, ain't it funny, a lot. In this case, ain't means isn't. Native speakers also use it in casual conversation. I ain't got time. Here, ain't got means don't have. Native speakers also use this in certain expressions that just sound correct using the word ain't, like the expression, ain't it something? Ain't it something? It's snowing in July. Ain't it something? In this case, ain't means isn't. So yes, you should understand it because natives commonly use it. But again, I recommend that you shouldn't use it because there's a high risk it will sound inappropriate. Number 7, fine. I'm fine. You should remove this because it's often used with a negative, not a neutral meaning. So students learn that fine is bad, fine, good, so it's more neutral. But that's not how natives actually use it. For example, if you're in a restaurant and let's say you order salmon and the server comes and asks you, how's the salmon? And you reply back and say, it's fine. This means that I don't think it's very good. That's how a native speaker uses this word. It actually means bad in this context. Now, also, same with if your friend, your coworker, your husband or wife comes up to you and says, is everything okay? You look upset. And you reply back and say, I'm fine, or everything's fine. Most of the time, this actually means I'm upset, I'm just not telling you. There is one time where native speakers use fine in this neutral context that the word implies. If you're at a grocery store or if you're dealing with a service provider and they say, how are you? You should reply with fine, thanks, and you. So we use this as a social norm to be polite. We generally use this when we don't actually care about the answer. So when the person is scanning my groceries, they don't actually care how I'm doing. They're just being polite. So we just reply with, I'm fine. So if you're in a restaurant and they ask you, how's the salmon? And you like the salmon, you should say it's good, it's great, or delicious. Now, in a social context, if someone says, is everything okay? You look upset. Well, you can say, I'm just tired, that's all, which means you're not upset. Or you can admit you're upset. I asked you to get groceries and you forgot. Or you can say, no, everything's good, everything's great. But in the context of going to a grocery store or dealing with service providers and they ask you, how are you? Absolutely just say fine, thanks, and you. That's the standard reply. Number 8, needn't. You should remove this because it's outdated, it sounds too formal, and it sounds stiff. It doesn't sound natural. You needn't finish the report tonight. Yes, this is grammatically correct, but it does not sound like something native speakers say. You don't need to finish the report tonight, or you don't have to finish the report tonight. That's what native speakers would say. Need is for necessity and have is for obligation, but they're often interchangeable. You don't need to buy groceries. We already have everything for dinner. So this sounds like there's a lack of necessity. You don't have to work tomorrow, it's a holiday. So this is a lack of obligation. But again, a lot of the time, you can use one or the other and there's no difference. Number 9, must. Now, you should remove this from your vocabulary if you're using it just to say need or have to, because native speakers use must when there's a strong obligation. There's a rule to follow, a formal rule to follow. I hear students use must too often. They use it for general obligations, but again, natives prefer need to or have to for general obligation. If my husband said to me, you must get groceries, I would be like, wow. This is a very serious request because he used the word must. But if he says you need to, you have to get groceries, this is a normal request, and this is the request I expect as a native speaker. Must, again, is used for formal rules. So think of government or even workplace requirements. You must bring your passport to the airport. This is a formal obligation. You need to, you have to pack warm clothes. This is a general or normal obligation. You must wear proper footwear in the kitchen. This is a formal obligation from your workplace, most likely. You need to have to buy new shoes for the party. This is a general, normal obligation. Number 10, query. This is not commonly used by natives as a replacement to question. I have a query about the project. A native speaker would not say that. It sounds unnatural. A native speaker would say, I have a question about the project. And if you want to use an alternative word, you could say, I have a concern, I have a doubt, or I have an issue, perhaps. But keep in mind that it is commonly and naturally used with computers, databases, and software development. In this case, it means request for information. For example, I need to write a query to pull the data from the server. But remember, you would say, I need to ask a question about the data you pulled from the server. So do not use query to mean question. Number 11, participate. You should stop using this grammatically incorrectly and with the wrong meaning. So first of all, for grammar, you participate in something. I hear a lot of students say, I participated the conference. That doesn't work. You need that preposition in. I participated in the conference. Now it's correct. But keep in mind that participate does not mean attend. Attend is focus on being present. Participate, the focus is on actively contributing. So if you say, I participated in the conference, I would ask you, how so? Were you a speaker? Were you a moderator? Because you were actively involved. But maybe you just wanted to say, I attended the conference. You were present at the conference. But you can absolutely participate in this YouTube class by leaving a comment using your new vocabulary, and you absolutely should. Number 12, funny. The mistake I hear is that funny is commonly used when fun is the correct choice. Remember, funny produces laughter, but fun produces enjoyment or entertainment. Students say to me, the game was funny. And I reply and say, oh really? Why? Why did it make you laugh? But they didn't want to say funny. They meant to say the game was fun, which means enjoyable. And then I would reply back and say, oh, that's great. I'm so glad. Now you can absolutely say the party was funny. I laughed a lot. Or the party was fun. I had a great time. Now we focused on specific words you should remove. Let's do the same thing, but we'll look at full phrases you should remove and the alternative you can say instead. The first phrase that you should remove is, I will do it. Let's take this scenario. Imagine I say to you, can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor and share this lesson with your friends? You might reply and say, I will do it, Jennifer, which is such a nice thing of you to do, but that is not how a native speaker would accept that task. To accept that task, a native speaker would simply say, do you know? You only need 2 words. A native speaker would say, will do. will do. That's it. So you can consider this a phrase or an expression, a group of words, in this case only 2 words, will do, that have a meaning. And the meaning is I will do the task. I will do whatever you ask me to do. In this case, share this lesson with your friends because I want all of your friends, everyone you know who is also improving their English, to benefit from this lesson. So what can you say? Will do, Jennifer. Will do, Jennifer. That's the natural way to communicate this. You can use will do in both spoken and written English. It's very common to reply to a text message or an email and simply say will do. This sounds both professional and natural. So now if I say, can you do me a favor and like this video? What will you say? What will you reply back with? Will do or will do, Jennifer. So make sure you do it and like this video. The second phrase you should remove from your vocabulary is, how is it going? If you've been following my lessons for a while, you may know that I love saying, how's it going? And I love teaching my students this phrase because native speakers use it in our daily speech in both a social and professional context. You might be wondering why I want you to remove this from your vocabulary. Only because when I hear students use it, they either have incorrect pronunciation or unnatural pronunciation. And in order to sound fluent and confident in English, you need correct grammar, you need the correct context, you need to use the expression in the right situation or at the right time, and you also need correct pronunciation. So unfortunately, if you use this expression but your pronunciation is incorrect, it won't help you sound fluent or natural. So let's fix that. You can either remove it from your vocabulary and use an alternative. How are you doing? This is also a professional and friendly and very natural expression. How are you doing? Or you can keep how's it going in your vocabulary but pronounce it naturally. So let's work on the pronunciation. How's it? Notice that zit. How's it going? You need to combine those sounds together. How's it going? Repeat after me. How's it going? Now let's listen to some native speakers saying this phrase, how's it going? Because the best way to learn pronunciation is directly from native speakers in a natural context. So let's listen now.
How's it going for you in the department?
So ask them, how's it going? Are you delivering value?
Hey, gossip, how's it going?
So you can keep this phrase in your vocabulary if you're confident that the pronunciation is correct. The third phrase you should remove from your vocabulary is, where's the toilet? You should remove this because it sounds awkward, because it's too direct and it's slightly rude. This is a toilet. But the room where the toilets are located, the room where you can use the toilet is called the restroom. The restroom. So don't say, where's the toilet? Again, it sounds slightly rude. Say, where's the restroom? This is the phrase that you will use in public locations such as restaurants, malls, or offices. Where's the restroom? But if you're in someone's home, their house, apartment, flat, condo, if you're in someone's home, you would say, where's the bathroom? Bathroom. So change the word restroom to bathroom. But if you are shopping for toilets, you want to buy a new toilet and you're in a store, you can say, where are the toilets? The fourth phrase to remove is, the movie is bored. Do you know why you should remove this? It's the incorrect adjective choice. To be bored, the movie is bored. To be bored is a feeling of a lack of interest, a lack of engagement. But a movie cannot have a feeling. People can have feelings. So you can say, I'm bored. I'm bored. The adjective choice for the movie would be boring. To be boring with an ing. This is to describe something or someone that isn't interesting or engaging. So you can say, I'm bored. I have the feeling because the movie is boring. The movie is boring. Let's try this one. The class was so... What do you need? The class was so boring. Again, you can say she's bored. She has the feeling. She's bored because the class is boring. So remember, bored with an ed. Bored is a feeling or state. Boring with an ing. Boring is what causes the feeling or state. Hopefully this isn't the feeling you have now. Hopefully you aren't thinking to yourself, I'm bored. So what's the opposite? You could say, I'm engaged. I'm engaged. Put that in the comments. I'm engaged because this lesson is engaging. You got it. Number 5, I went to home. You should remove this from your vocabulary immediately because it's incorrect sentence structure. The correct sentence structure is I went home. You don't use the preposition to. But if you said, I went to her home, his home, John's home, Jennifer's home, you need that preposition to. You cannot say, I went her home. It sounds incorrect. You have to say, I went to her home. So use to except when it's your home. I went home. It's your home. Number 6, she goes to the work at 9 a.m. You should remove this from your vocabulary immediately because, again, it's incorrect sentence structure. She goes to work, not to the work, but yes, you need the preposition to. You go to a location, except if it's your home. She goes to work at 9 a.m. Omit the before routine nouns, such as work, home, school, and church. Let's look at this. She goes to university. University is a type of school, and it's a routine place. She goes to university in the mornings, she goes to work in the afternoons, and she goes to church in the evenings. After a long day, she goes home, because remember, with home you omit to, and with all routine places you omit the article. Remember though, it's possible to use an article, the or a, with these nouns when they're not routine. For example, we took pictures of a beautiful church. This isn't the church I routinely go to, it's just a church, any church. So you can use the article. Or she's giving a presentation at the university downtown. So in this case, it's not the university she routinely goes to, it's just a university. But it's a specific one, the one downtown, so you use the article the. Number 7, let's make a rest. I hear this from students a lot, but you should remove it from your vocabulary immediately because it's a direct translation. It's unnatural. It's not the way a native speaker would communicate this. So let's say I'm teaching a class and I'm about to say, okay, everyone, let's what would I say? Do you know? Let's take a break. Let's take a break. That's how you communicate this naturally. That's the phrase. I could also say, let's take a quick break. So I add the word quick. Or let's take a 5-minute break to describe the break. Native speakers mainly use the verb take, but it is possible to use have. Let's have a break. But we do not use the verb make. Now also notice I said break. I didn't say pause or rest. To take a break. This is to have a short period of rest from an activity. Now I might say, I'm tired. I need to rest. In this case, maybe I need to take a nap, or I'm doing some strenuous physical activity and I just need to sit. That is to rest. Or I could say, let's pause the movie, which means temporarily stop. You may pause this video to use what? The bathroom, not the toilet, the bathroom. You may pause this lesson to use the bathroom. And also notice, to rest, to pause, those are verbs, but a break is a noun, and it's take a break, or less commonly, but still acceptable, have a break. Make is not used. Number 8, every morning I walk with my dog. You should remove this from your vocabulary immediately because it's an awkward direct translation. You can grammatically walk with someone or something. This means to accompany, and it's more for companionship purposes, to spend time with each other. You can also walk someone or walk something, and this is to show that you have responsibility for this task. For example, I walk my kids to school. I'm responsible for this task, for making sure my kids get to school safely. I walk my kids to school. I walked my grandmother to the store. So I walk someone. I walked my grandmother. I had responsibility for this task because my grandmother is elderly and needs support. But if I say I walked with my grandmother to the store, this sounds more like companionship purpose. We wanted to spend quality time together. And that's why you should remove I walk with my dog, because that isn't the purpose. Companionship isn't the purpose. A native speaker would say, every morning I walk my dog, because I have responsibility for that task. Every morning I walk my dog. You can also say, every morning I take my dog for a walk. And for companionship purposes, I would say, every morning I go for a walk with my husband. Or every morning my husband and I go for a walk. So to go for a walk is for the purpose of leisure or exercise. It's not simply to reach a destination. Number 9, thanks you teacher for help me. I hear this a lot, but it's grammatically incorrect, and that's why you should remove it from your vocabulary immediately. There are 2 correct forms. You can say thanks teacher with an S, or thank you teacher without an S. Those are the correct forms. Thank teacher is incorrect. Thanks you teacher is incorrect. Thanks teacher for helping me. You need to say for helping me. You could also say thanks teacher for your help, because for is a preposition and you need a gerund verb, the verb in ing, or you can use a noun, your help. That's a something, that's a noun. So to remember that and to show your appreciation for the help I provided, put thanks Jennifer, and make sure you have that S, or say thank you Jennifer and don't use an S. Put one of those options in the comments. Amazing job in this masterclass. Comment let's go, comment let's go if you want me to make another masterclass just like this. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.